As a young generation, like Prime Minister Trudeau, that we penetrate the cabinets.
I also want to reiterate how deeply sorry Canada is for the situation this put President Zelensky and the Ukrainian delegation in. It is extremely troubling to think that this egregious error is being politicized by Russia and its supporters to provide false propaganda about what Ukraine is fighting for.
Why does this government treat Alberta like a fart in the room that nobody wants to talk about or acknowledge?
I heard her say a word that I know is distinctly unparliamentary, and I think she may want to withdraw it. The word was F-A-R-T.
I mean, we love your Mr. Trudeau. I mean, his family has always been such big fans about that.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Happy
Glad to be
Monday.
back.
Hope everyone's yeah. Hope everyone had a good weekend, a restful weekend. Hope you're starting your week off right. I am of course your co-host Snow Himbo, and this is my co-host Yeti G.
I'm dog sitting for a friend, so I'm in a very bougie apartment.
Yeah, I was gonna say, whereabouts are you right now?
Apartment downtown in Calgary. This place is crazy.
Nice.
It's got like an outdoor dog park on the same floor. Yeah, there's like concierge service. I was like, this is a hotel, not an apartment.
Yeah, my mom's condo is similar.
Okay.
She's in like a really upscale like condo for kind of wealthy older people. Kind of like
Okay.
Penny Tower, I guess, from the Fallout series, but it's in Toronto, and they got like a saltwater pool and like a sauna.
Oh, wow.
And I'm not gonna lie, I love coming to visit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would imagine. Hey, Mom,
I
I'm
love
coming to
coming to
visit. I didn't
visit.
see you while I was in the pool, so I was busy.
It's I love coming to visit. And what I hope for the future is everybody can enjoy that level of base luxury, because yeah, it's like essentially like going to a spa. They actually do have a spa, so yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, those upscale like bougie apartments are insane. Just the amenities. I know you pay like crazy money for them.
Yeah.
But, it's definitely worth it.
But it's not a bad thing. Like, there's definitely things about capitalism that have, I mean, creature comforts are some of the nicer things that you wouldn't have got under a system that necessarily was more solely focused on just needs. So,
I think we'll get there technologically.
yeah.
I really do.
I mean, eventually, yeah.
I think we will get there technologically. I feel like the one thing capitalism did was just like those creature comforts, especially in my hypothesis that the capitalist class. I've had a long-standing hypothesis that, you know, when you live under a system that rewards greed primarily, you're going to get certain personality types, and I'm leaning a bit into the psych shit here, but you're going to get certain personality types who are rewarded in the system. Greed is rewarded. And the thing is, those certain personality types, I feel like a lot of this excess that you just see across the board, that, you know, people like having ridiculous shit like, you know, like a yacht with a pool in the yacht, even though you're on the water, but it's not the right water. You need this water. Like it's gotten to the point where
in the ocean. What are you, crazy?
Yeah. I feel like this is a natural occurrence for these kind of personality types, because I feel like they kind of just have a hole that they just can't fill.
You're exactly right.
This is especially true of people who have like certain cluster B personality disorders, for example, and those are usually the people that kind of, make it all the way up to the top because you got to be a piece of shit in most cases.
You're talking about like
Exceptions.
narcissistic tendencies, right? Like that kind of stuff.
Narcissistic personality disorder, antisocial personality disorder. There's also elements of emptiness and borderline personality disorder, but for the most part, those that's more of a self-destructive kind of illness. So it doesn't.
Well, you can even see like some of the crossover in like psychopaths and stuff like that. Even in like what we see as psychopaths in society, like murderers and things like that, you see that in business folk, and it's rewarded for their ruthlessness.
There's definitely crossover. So I usually explain it like this. All psychopaths by definition are narcissists. Why? Because, well, they're not capable of feeling empathy. So obviously the only real human that they're in it for is themselves. So all psychopaths are naturally narcissists, but all narcissists are not necessarily psychopaths. It's kind of a dynamic.
That I can see that. I think some people are maybe narcissistics in their abilities, but maybe not so in that they want to be better than someone. It's like having a very high self-confidence. I can do anything. And I'll admit I'm a bit like that. I always say there's nothing that I can't do. I jokingly always refer, I was like, I'll figure out nuclear fusion if I have to. Or nuclear fission, sorry.
I think that's more of a like a dopamine thing. Because I'm kind of like that too, but it's because I like the process of figuring stuff out. That's the only reason I got so good at my career. I was like the puzzle guy. I'm like, this is a puzzle, I'm gonna solve it.
Nice.
And feels good. It's like, especially if you're like me and you have like I get bored very easily. Extremely easily. So for me, and that's like an ADHD thing, obviously.
Yeah, I was gonna say exactly like that.
You're always chasing the dopamine. But yeah, so it's kind of along those lines. But at the end of the day, I think that's more just towards like you want to solve a puzzle, and that's part of it. You kind of have to kind of hype yourself up into an attitude of like, yeah, we're gonna solve that puzzle.
Yeah. Well, and you gotta have confidence too, right? Like you have to have that feeling you can do it.
Well, if you don't believe in yourself, nobody else is going to. That's kind of the sad reality of the world, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I just, so like narcissism, for example, is interesting because you'd think these people have the most self-confidence, but the problem is they actually don't. That's kind of the whole rub. They can't self-validate themselves. They need to get validation. They need self-worth from the outside world. They need someone to hold a mirror to them, which is the whole point of the disorder. So that's kind of a lot of the reason why a lot of these types flock to, becoming like massive capitalists because again, they've got that hole they've got to fill. They need external validation, like Trump and I mean, the prime minister of our country is the easiest example of narcissistic personality disorder I could think of.
That's fair.
He does everything for validation, and he just seems to aim for the validation. There's never any work. He never wants to do the work, which a lot of these like neoliberal politician types, they always want the praise for doing the work, but they never want to do the work. And that's a hallmark of narcissism. You want to be praised without having to do the work to earn the praise. You just want the praise because that's all you care about.
Well, that's kind of what capitalism is almost in essence, is the ownership class gets all the praise for doing things, but it's all the workers that do everything.
Yeah, perfect example, Elon Musk. Now, all Elon Musk does, I'll say the same as Steve Jobs. He was a more famous example. I guess they're tied now. But like, all he does is throw down capital. That's it. He's not the guy inventing these things. He pays people to do that for him. And from what I've heard from multiple sources, he does so with a fairly iron fist. Same
Likely.
thing with, same thing with Steve Jobs, same thing with Bill Gates. These people don't innovate. They just front the capital so the innovation can happen. But everybody thinks there's these geniuses. I mean, just go look at the way everybody sniffs Elon's throne 24/7. They think he's like this incredible genius.
One of the biggest eye-openers for me years and years ago was I was watching like a documentary on Bill Gates, and they basically talked about how ruthless he was and how like he would scream at people in the office. And I was like, now things are starting to make more sense. It's like now
I mean, let's put it this way. I've talked about this before, but it bears repeating. As a kid, I was a super nerd as a kid. I designed video games. Why someone like me was even going near C++ at my age was just like weirdo shit. Just weirdo shit. So I made a game called Kill Bill Gates. Oops. Oh my God. Thanks, Angel. Angel just let us know that I had the wrong. There we go.
Thank you, Angel. So, anyways, I'll be looking for a new co-host next week. One that can read.
Really. Yeah, really. That's my bad. That needs a drop shadow button. I'll figure this out later. So we're a little bit in, so I think we're gonna start switching to news segments. Just gonna break some Canadian news, then we're gonna get into the main topic, which is unveiling and explaining the different political factions of Canada, which I hope will be educational at least, because especially for people who aren't familiar with how Canadian politics works, we do have some differences. Some of the you'll see similar trends across the board when it comes to neoliberalism in the West. There's some things that just won't change. You'll always kind of see these same dynamics. But without further ado, so apparently there's a surge of online Pierre Polyev bots. CBC reported this, but we can investigate ourselves because obviously CBC isn't the most trustful source.
The NDP wants Canada's Elections Commissioner to look into online bots, backing Conservative leader Pierre Polyev. They say if Conservatives are paying for social media posts, they should be considered third-party advertising. If not, they could be examples of foreign interference.
There's basically duplicate messages flooding social media, the exact same message from people that seem to be having addresses around the world. That is sketchy behavior, and we need to know what it's about.
This after Press Progress noted hundreds of identical social media posts saying they were, quote, buzzing from the energy of a Polyev rally in Northern Ontario last week. Some of the posters are located in countries like France, England, and Russia. The Conservative Party sent CBC.
Do you hear how he said Russia?
Russia.
Russia.
And Iran and China. Settle down.
I swear to God. The Cold War never fucking ended. It never ended.
Oh no, it didn't. And it's so funny because like communism was not perfect, and there was definitely things that they failed about. But the amount of lying that clearly continues to go on and on is just, it's like, you're like, I'm not going to believe anything now. Like, they can't even get the right acronym for China's government. They keep calling it the CPP. It's the CPC.
Yeah. And here's the thing. I don't even know why they do this anymore. Because, straight up, y'all got what you wanted. The USSR fell. Russia's now capitalist. And you're still doing this shit. I just, And I feel like Canada leans way more into like, this is Russian propaganda. I feel like America's way more like, oh my God, China. Oh!
Yeah.
I like
Yeah,
that.
and you're right though, and it's excessive, and it has been for years. And you can, like, I kind of noticed really early on my life that it was happening, and I started noticing most in sporting events, like the way they would talk about in the Olympics or even the World Juniors, and oh, Russian junior team is so bad, and then I'm like, they do the exact same thing as the Canadian team, but it's somehow way worse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, big time. And I mean, I remember all like the accusations of like cheating or all that,
Mhm.
and it's just like, guys, come on. Like, maybe clean up your own home first. But yeah,
Mhm.
anyway, they got a quote here.
A statement that reads in part, the CPC does not pay for bots and has no idea who is behind these accounts. We are seeking the support of actual Canadians as witnessed by large in-person turnouts at our events. We remain very concerned about any foreign interference and call upon the government to release anything that it might know. So, do possible bot posts supporting Canadian politicians need more scrutiny? It's time to bring in the power panel. Cameron Ahmed is a former head of communications to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Lisa Raitt is a former Conservative cabinet minister, and Émilie Nicolas is a columnist for Le Devoir.
Can we pause it for 1 second?
Welcome to the show, everybody.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a prime example of the Joseph Goebbels playbook.
Mm-hmm.
The Liberals, and to the extent the NDP, are claiming Conservatives are doing this. We know for years the Liberals and Democrats in the States have been doing the same thing. How many times have we joked about all these posts all of a sudden lining up? We've seen those videos where they do the newscast, where it's just like a timeline of every newscast, and it's all in sync. They're saying the exact same sentences, the exact same words. So yeah, I just wanted to point out how this was an example of accusing others of what you yourself are guilty of.
Of course. And I mean, I'm glad you pointed that out, because you beat me to it. I was going to say, like, you know, that is a similarity to American politics, which is, that is a similarity to American politics. Whereas essentially what you do is you do a thing, and yeah, it's a classic Joseph Goebbels play of, it's not even accuse the other side of doing the thing you're doing. It's that everybody's doing these things. They're all doing them. And they just accuse each other back and forth. Because, I mean, I pointed out before, tons of examples of the Liberal Party doing this, of, you know, in the States, they got the big money. They got those big paid propagandists like Dash Dabrowski or like Harry Sisson, the like DNC shills who are out there just like, or like, you know, for conservatives, you got like Cat Turd and all these other things where they're just shilling for their team, like hardcore. So, I mean, this isn't surprising. Also, when they're talking about like different, just a quick note, when they're talking about different like locations, do these people understand what a VPN is? Because a lot of people use VPNs. That means it's going to look like you're in a different location. And a lot of VPNs.
Tell China about the VPNs. They'll start being on the internet. They'll start trolling people. What if China finds out about this?
Yeah, really.
The Conservatives also pointed out some bot accounts seem to support Justin Trudeau, though the Liberal Party says it does not use or interact with online bots. But Cameron, what's your take on this bigger question as raised by the NDP of whether the Elections Commissioner should investigate this?
Well, I think they're probably right. I mean, and Mr. Singh is right when he says it's sketchy. It's obviously strange, and it's obviously also concerning for our democratic process when you have this type of manipulation occurring on social media. to such a large scale. I think if the Conservative Party wants to show that it takes it seriously, then they would say that they do and actually try and do something about it, try and get accountability from the social media websites, or participate in a process to try and figure out and get down to the bottom of it, and also try and work with the government on the online harms bill, which actually I believe had a section devoted to trying to get accountability over bot farming and the presence of these types of accounts online. It's not a good thing for democracy when you have this level of manipulation. You don't know where it's coming from. You don't know how to shut them down. And as we get closer and closer to an election, we need to have stronger processes and accountability for political parties if they have any role in farming these kinds of accounts.
There is an official term for this. It's called astroturfing. It refers to the use of these robotic accounts to fake what appears to be grassroots support for a politician or a political party. It's not limited to any one movement, and some experts say it's been going on for years. So Lisa, what's your take on whether the Conservatives should agree and call on the Elections Commissioner to investigate this activity?
Why is it up to the Conservatives? Like, guys, let's get serious here. Do we honestly think that the Conservative Party is buying these bots? No, they're not.
Yes. 100%. I'm sorry. You can't just ask that question and expect people to be like, well, now that she asked, like, does anybody think this political party is actually engaging in this kind of behavior? Yes, absolutely. And I just like to say, it is incredible that we're watching our media, like Javier pointed out, discover the phenomenon of troll farms. This is like a real discovery. They're like, oh my God, astroturfing, they call it. Like, you guys live in the ocean. This has been happening for a long time now. Does like nobody, you guys like don't know like about NAFO at all? You don't remember the Hillary bots that harassed everybody in 2016? This has been going on for a while, guys.
People. Those were real people with real feelings.
Wait, you mean John 86484 wasn't a grassroots supporter of the checks notes Hillary Clinton campaign?
I thought it was just how they spelled Jonathan now. It's creative spelling.
Yeah, like
So I was gonna say, as we were talking about propaganda, so the term public relations, the guy who named it that was Edward Bernays, and he specifically said, he's like, I'm just renaming propaganda. That was so in your public relations in the Western world, they are literally just saying propagandist. That is all they're saying.
That's great, though. If you think about that term, that's really clever. Public relations.
Oh, yeah. The first time I was watching some YouTube video about it, and I was just like, that man was a genius. Son of a bitch, but a genius.
Hey, game recognized game. That's great.
Exactly.
Just it's like you're
Don't hate the play, hate the game.
Well, the thing is, they just change. They've been doing this forever. They just changed the term. So instead of like, you remember alternative facts? They're like, they started talking about alternative facts. That just lies, people. That's all that is. There's no such thing as an alternative fact. It's
the alternative truth. What?
It's an Ouroboros statement. It eats itself. There can't be an alternative fact. There's just a fact and a falsehood.
What kind of statement did you call it?
And Ouroboros. So an Ouroboros, Ouroboros is like a snake eating its own tail.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, it's like it's one of these nonsense terms where for some reason just like I guess linguistically it takes on, but like when you just think about it for a second, you're just like, Wait, what is an alternative fact? Yeah. Let's see what
this is a fake truth. Excuse me? I don't believe that's a thing.
exactly. Anyway, let's see what this lady who I love the pauses. I think already she's probably not doing a great job here, but let's see.
They said they're not doing it. What we do have is a serious concern about foreign intervention in any elections.
Well, should they call for somebody to investigate it from that angle then?
She's got Hillary Clinton.
Why not? I mean, that's okay. But look, this is grandstanding by Charlie Angus. No question in my mind. He's writing a letter to the elections commissioner. He's trying to get some ink around his outrage around it. This is a serious issue. If the parties want to deal with foreign interference, they should deal with it head on, and they should deal with it together instead of the grandstanding trying to score political points off of one another. And a pox on all the parties, quite frankly, on this one, because it's a serious matter, and Canadians do actually care about foreign interference. They care about it a lot. But this notion of pointing fingers and saying that it's the Conservative Party that are hiring bots from Russia and from France, that is not helping overall. The big issue that we have facing us together as a democracy. There. And then finger pointing and saying, well, Conservatives aren't rushing quickly.
She's not wrong, like in essence, what she's saying, but she's still just playing her part is the problem.
I mean,
you know what
yeah,
I mean?
And I'm sorry, this is just a little bit of like, she doth protest too much.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it's like, look at her face. Look at that right there. She's like, really upset over this.
I don't disagree that it's something that should be talked about, but it's like at the same time, you're just BSing for the sake of BSing.
Yeah. And it's a
like
lot
if they wanted to, they should have talked about this 7 years ago instead of just yelling Nazi at everyone.
Yeah, pretty much. Let's
enough into saying that this is a wrong thing. That again is a red herring, my friend. The issue here is there is foreign interference. Somebody, anybody, all of them should investigate it, quite frankly. But to have it turn into a political issue, this is why we get bad raps.
Emily, what do you think about that? How should we go about addressing this then?
Well, first of all, there needs to be an answer and a condemnation and a dissociation from any party that receives advantage from bot farming or from artificial intelligence or from any form of foreign interference. So that's why I think there is a statement called from the Conservative Party. Now that this is being done, I think it's helpful to remember that just last spring, Joshua Benjo and over 100 leading experts in AI ethics called for a pause in the development of AI after the release of ChatGPT, because essentially, and I'm loosely quoting what they say, now that artificial intelligence has controlled language and is getting better at controlling language, language is the key to human civilization. So if robots understand language, they can make us lose control of our own society. And they warned that if we do not pause the development of AI in that context, until we have correct legislation to be able to deal with this threat, it's going to have an impact on elections globally and our democracies because because of exactly what the kind of things that we're seeing today. We're seeing that it's very easy for people to program robots that fake language that makes us lose sight of what is real and what isn't in terms of social mobilization, political engagement. And that has huge impact on how we poll and how we see who has momentum or not in an election. And there's manipulation that makes essentially our electoral laws obsolete until we figured out this threat. And this is much bigger than any political party. And actually, it is much bigger than just Canada. So Canada has to put its duck in a row. And I know that there's been work in the parliament in terms of trying to figure out a way to legislate around AI. But that's actually an urgent global issue that threatens democracy worldwide.
Well, certainly, we're seeing some of the
See,
impacts
the problem
of
is you
AI
can't
and online
legislate
misinformation.
AI. You won't be able to legislate AI. It's artificial intelligence. It's going to keep evolving itself. There's no way you can put laws around it because it's going to be continually evolving itself. in the way they say AI works. I'm pretty sure AI is kind of BS at the moment.
Oh, it's bad. I mean, even ChatGPT is really bad. I've asked it questions and it's given outright misinformation. And then I have to like fact check it and then it corrects itself. And then don't get me started on the images. Those weird like fingers and shit. Like we're not
hands? What are you talking about? My hand always looks like this and it's orange. What are you talking about?
I always look like I spent a weekend in Chernobyl. It's like I don't even think this is like ready for any consideration until it actually does improve. But I feel like she kind of gave the game away a little bit there because like nobody was talking about AI. They were just talking about, troll farms. She's moving it to AI and then talking about like we got legislative. Look, the reality is
they're trying to conflate the two so that when down the road they can use it for laws. They'll be like, oh, AI is responsible for the bot farms. We can't use this now. They're Russia.
Which is interesting because like good luck getting the corporations on board with not using AI because that's an incredible tool for minimizing your labor cost. Like corporations are going to love that. Think of how many people they can lay off or I mean, in fairness, how many people they can implement AI to increase their productivity, increase their profits, and decrease upkeep costs and all that. I mean, good luck legislating that because the second the corporations hear word of it, they're going to have their own say. And I'm sorry, but much like other Western countries, our governments are kind of beholden to those folks.
Yeah.
As much as Canada, as much as Canada has this nice veneer of, oh no, these corporations, they can't interfere in our government at all. It's a bad joke.
Never do that.
Absolute bad joke. But we'll get into that more when we get into the infiltration next episode of our government.
Information right now all over the world, whether it's AI generated videos being shared in the US or misinformation fueling riots in the UK. So Lisa, to that point, putting the partisan wrangling aside, how much greater is that risk to our next election? Just how grave is that threat?
I think it's very real and we have to take it very seriously. I don't think that the Commissioner of Elections is the right path to go down in dealing with it. I'm not sure of exactly how many powers the Commissioner is going to have when it comes to getting to the bottom of this. I agree with Cameron on one thing, that there should be a collective agreement that the parties will work together on this. I don't know how they come about and do it because the heightened politicism of this, but certainly refraining from turning it into a political issue is one way to go forward. But I do believe that all of us have to make sure that the next general election, whenever that is going to be, is one that at least we have acknowledged that this could happen and put into place some fences to ensure that if we do recognize it happening, we are going to be able to deal with it and to protect our democracy at the end of the day. I think it's a real serious issue.
So, Cameron, what would a serious response look like then, in your mind? If it isn't the Elections Commissioner investigating this, does this come under the umbrella of the Election Monitoring Task Force? Is there some other agency, some other body that could be invoked to look into this? What do you think?
Have they
Well, I
mentioned
agree entirely
yet?
with Lisa that this is a serious threat that we face as a country and as a democracy. And Emilia is right that it is a global phenomenon. It's also not new. This is not something that is just happening for the first time and we're just seeing politicians jump on one example. Grandstanding in the moment is probably not the most productive approach, but I think ultimately there has to be some accountability on the social media companies too, and that's something that the government has tried to address. Other countries have managed to at least start addressing, and in reality, I don't think we've seen the Conservative Party show any willingness to put any legislative guardrails or any regulations around social media companies who have a responsibility to label certain content online as misinformation, as disinformation, as manipulative or manipulated. So I think that's a big part of the answer here. And agreed, all parties have to work together because this goes well beyond one party, one election cycle. It is pretty fundamental to the future of our democracy and the belief and trust that people have in our institutions and in the information that they consume online. I mean, if you can't trust anything anymore to be true, then it's extremely grave and extremely serious for citizens to get involved and to to participate actively in our democracy. So a big part of this solution, I think, has to rest on social media companies. We can't trust them to do it on their own. We have to, governments have to impose rules on them.
It also is perhaps a little bit...
I don't know about you, but that's a red flag to me.
We have to impose rules on them. How come we can't impose rules on other companies? No, just social media.
But also, I mean, it seems like they're all in lockstep here. That we have to clamp down. And what the red flag to me is, how do you determine what's a bot, what's a troll farm, what's an AI, and what is just a person who is speaking out about something that goes against your specific narrative. That's a red flag I'm seeing already in this post.
There's no difference. They're all the same.
Like
gulags.
And what kind of legislation are you going to put forth? And what would that look like? Because you can't really just regulate bots or AI without having some people fall in the cracks. Because if the issue is like, at the end of the day, we have to contain false information. I mean, look at it in Britain right now. Britain is down bad. They've got the government essentially saying, like, you can be penalized for what you post online. And now we've got our government kind of falling into the same category here.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm not liking this. I'm not liking this at all. This started.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
This just started with is Pierre using bots to shill his campaign and make him look better. Now it's turning into like this serious discussion of like, how do we clamp down on, on internet content?
Well, do you notice how vague?
Darker.
Like you kind of alluded to a few minutes ago, it's a very vague statements too, and that's gonna keep going. Like you even look at our laws in general, we have to follow them to a T, but they're so vague. We need to hire 2 people and pay them $500 an hour to argue very fine specifics over it, whether I broke the law or not, that I'm supposed to know within a millisecond of me committing this supposed crime. It's just not conducive to making a workable society.
Yeah.
Like it's just vagueness. And so it's regular folks can't really defend ourselves because when you have rules that are vague, it just makes more for the oppressor to have wiggle room to use them against you.
You are spot on, sir. Also, this guy is just, I'm sorry, this man is very creepy looking. This is like some like weird vampire sort of situation going on.
If you were about a poster of white people to avoid, this would be the guy.
Pretty much.
Concerning
you see
that
white
there's
people
no
in your neighborhood like this, run.
Yeah.
Way to verify who is or isn't behind this. And so, Emily, I mean, let me turn to you for the big question I asked off the top. If this doesn't get under control, could these bot posts actually sway the way Canadians vote?
Yes. It has played, Russia, there's already been a lot of investigation into how they played a role in the 2016 election between Hillary and Trump. And certainly social media mobilization played a role there. So this is not a sci-fi scenario. This is things that we've seen before. And that's also something that Cameron already insisted on. The only thing that I would add, and this is something that's being pointed out by experts, is that through the latest development of AI, it's basically a lot cheaper and a lot easier for people to engage in this sort of nefarious activity. And so this is something that is bound to become even more an issue now with the language generative technology that we have now. And so this needs to be solved. And basically, there's been a lot of experts who've called on urgent, but really urgent action from the government of Canada around legislation, not just on election. And that there's basically two things: there's election and foreign interference, but there's also the issue of the tech itself. And the development of those technologies. And so there needs to be more accountability in terms of foreign interference. There needs to be more accountability on platform, but we also need to really have more of a framework around people that develop technologies that can be used in a very nefarious way when they're put in the wrong hands as well.
I've got about time.
Did she just Russiagate this? Did I hear that correctly?
Oh yeah. They totally just went straight Russia.
Are we back to Russiagate?
Well, and do you remember that denying elections is right-wing conspiracy? She is denying elections right now. That's what
drives me insane. They all do this.
Yep.
Even
That's why
politicians.
Both sides are idiots. Yeah, it's like both sides will do it without any kind of self-realization, I think, would be the word.
The fact that she's taken...
Well, it's like the right wings that are like, oh, the media's lying, and then we'll immediately be like, China. It's like, you are doing the exact thing you were claiming the other people are doing. And just
it's like they both... It's like both factions picked a different rival.
Yep.
I said this before, but it's like, okay, conservatives, you pick China. Liberals, you need to stay on Russia. Together, we'll accomplish nothing for Canadians.
It's like the old Captain Planet. With our racisms combined, we do nothing. Yay!
It's like a summation of our country. I almost said company, but really at this point,
it's the same thing. That's why, it's weird. I like my country and I like my fellow countrymen, but it's like I have a hard time having any pride for Canada as an entity. It's like, no, we killed a bunch of people, we stole land, we continue to help abate imperialism and killing of other people and other continents, more specifically other colors. And I'm like, I can't get behind this idea. It's not.
I mean, we essentially did a genocide, said sorry, and then waited a bit. and then just went right back to the genocide thing. And
And
now
it's
we
kind
just
of
think
funny because
Nazis are based.
yeah. Well, have you noticed the trend in people being like, you're starting to see a lot more of this. So it's like, it comes from the Holocaust denial and stuff like that. But it's like, oh, all of a sudden it's like, well, Hitler wasn't that bad of a guy. It's like, really? Like,
Oh,
what was it
dude.
4 months ago? Or no, probably longer than that. Probably about a year ago, even. I was at my brother-in-law's house, and a YouTube video came on about Hitler, like a cartoon one, and it was like the 10 not so bad things about Hitler. And I was like, that seems like a bit of a bad thing to start talking about.
I
Or we
remember
could just
that.
leave it as.
I remember that insofar as I remember those posts where it's like, do you like vegetarianism? Do you like being an animal lover? Blah blah blah. And it's like, congratulations, you have the same things as Adolf Hitler. And it's
Yeah.
like, well, yeah, but like, first
Minus
off,
the whole.
you can absolutely be a psychopath and have those attributes. You can have those endearments. There are psychological studies on how perfect media example. Tony Soprano, obviously a psychopath, huge animal lover. Now, the reason why you can be a huge animal lover is because when you don't have empathy for other human beings, you have to fill that somehow.
30 seconds left each. Lisa, I'll go to you first. One party is in government, the Liberal Party. What should the government do?
Take it seriously, plan for the future, protect the next election. But isn't it funny we're talking about what's essentially a positive tweet? I tend to get more worried about the bot farms that come after and spread misinformation. This wasn't technically misinformation. It was somebody saying they liked that they went to a rally of Pierre Poilievre's. So it's a weird one to single out as being foreign interference.
Conservatives not tell on themselves, challenge impossible. We're at the end here, and she's defending the nature of the bot tweets.
Yeah.
Come on now.
They weren't mean bots. They were nice. They were
nice. They were. Listen.
They had rainbow flags in there.
Yeah. Listen. I'm not concerned about the positive bots that are completely astroturfing the internet. What I'm concerned about is the ones that aren't telling the truth.
Yeah.
About my team. I don't care about the bots that are painting my team in a positive light. Oh my God. My Lord. We're so cooked. We are so
Won't
cooked.
someone think of the bots? The poor bots.
They're Canadian bots. They're naturally polite. They said sorry.
They're very nice bots that are just trying to steal our democracy. Just a little fun game.
There's more to come.
Steal the democracy.
And Cameron, what would you say in response to that? As I pointed out, the Liberals are in power. They have the ability to address this in a serious manner if they choose to. What would you like to see them do?
There's always more they can do, but they already have started to address this. And the online harms bill is one of the ways that they're trying to put accountability on social media companies. And I've yet to see any good faith or any legitimate attempt by the Conservative Party to show any willingness to work with. All they do is attack the government when they talk about regulating the social media companies and spread.
There it is. There it is. Okay? Yep. That's what this is all really about, y'all.
Yep.
There's nothing to do.
We'll not do it now.
The online harms bill, which we should cover that in a later episode. Regulating social media. They're all pushing in lockstep. And they're pretending that they're opposed, right? But they're all saying the same thing. We need to regulate social media. And I think it's funny that they're saying this at a time where a lot of the narratives of Canada in the greater Western Empire are being exposed on social media. Whether it's the outright lies about the conflict in Ukraine with Russia, or I don't know, the constant barrage of videos of children getting blown up in Gaza, which we know they all don't like. They don't like seeing that. They don't have smoke with that. But
they don't want to see that while they're eating brunch. Their brunch is ruined.
Can't sip on a mimosa while looking at a little tiny limb on the floor.
Yeah, come on, people. Have some respect.
They're giving the game away right here. This is the game being given away.
Disinformation about what they're trying to do. In this case, there is an attempt to move forward. There's a bill that's been tabled, and they should probably engage in good faith on that bill, see if there's anything in there they can get behind or work with the government on.
Lisa, I give you 10 seconds. I see you shaking your head if you'd like just a quick rebuttal.
It always has to come down to a partisan shot at the end at the Conservatives. That's all. I'm just trying to say this is a big issue.
Well,
and this is a bigger issue than taking partisan shots at one another. And Cameron, every time you talked, you took a shot at the Conservatives. I never once took a shot at the Liberal government. I recognize this is a big issue.
Well,
we're out of time, unfortunately. I want to thank you. I want to thank our power panel: Cameron Ahmed, Lisa Rayton, Emily Nicolas.
I don't really like any of them, but I feel that one lady in the middle was somewhat trying to be reasonable, but I don't think it was for real any reason though.
Here's the thing.
Like it was like
at the end of the day, they're all saying the same thing. They're all saying the same thing. We got to crack down on social media. You know, you got a reasonable one. You got someone that let a little too much out of the bag. I feel like when you start defending the bots, you've lost the plot. But they're conservatives. I think it's their job to lose the plot at this point. And you've got the classic liberal who's sitting here like, yeah, you know what? Like, I'm going to say this really nicely, but I don't think human beings should be able to speak at all unless we tell them to.
Yeah. Like it's such a sham because you can see what's going on, and anytime you even try to even have like a reasonable conversation with people, it gets blown out of proportion. You get called all sorts of names, and it's like we gotta start having these conversations. Like it's not gonna go away. There's not gonna suddenly all the billionaires are gonna be like, we were joking. We're all gonna be nice now.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like
anyway, we're gonna move on. I just got a quick update. This is more like a heads up than anything else. But they increased the tax on vaping, which pisses me off personally. This is more of a personal grievance than anything else. Because like the reasoning behind these tax things, the taxing on smoking too. What bothers me is the justification for these taxes is to deter people from smoking. The problem I have with it is I have not seen any increase, because if you guys remember, y'all in Canada and those who aren't in Canada, we've had continual increases on taxes for smoking, making it more expensive for working class people. Also, now they're doing the vape thing too. The problem I have with it, it's like, I'll pay the extra money, but I'm not seeing any increase to the material conditions of people. I'm not seeing ODSP go up in a manner that's actually going to benefit them. I'm not seeing welfare go up for people who can't find a job, which is becoming an increasing problem now that, you know, mass layoffs have happened across the last half a decade to a decade. I'm not seeing healthcare get any better.
Nope.
I'm not seeing anything happen with these taxes. So I don't mind paying the extra money. But the problem is, I don't see our taxes going anywhere. And it's understandable. We live under neoliberal capitalism. I understand that our tax dollars are mostly squandered. Not as bad as the States with its military budget of, God, I want to cry when I look at it. But still, this pisses me off. Because, like, I'll put it into context. Federal government could go even, while supportive of any measures to reduce Canadian smoking and vaping. First off, smoking and vaping are not the same thing. I can attest to this personally. First off, when I switched from smoking to predominantly vaping, I went through a week of extreme withdrawal symptoms. Okay? If these were the same, then it would have just been a transition. I had bad withdrawals. It was a rough week. I will never forget that week. Furthermore, I can attest to everything else has gotten better. I got my sense of smell, my sense of taste back. My lung capacity increased. I realized that this summer I can just hold my breath underwater way longer because I'm one of those weird dolphin people that love swimming all the time.
Me too, man.
Yeah. I personally saw the health benefits. I don't get winded anymore. Like, there are obvious health benefits, and there are studies that show it is up to 95% less harmful than smoking. So why are they tacking these taxes onto vaping when at the end of the day, for a lot of people, if they can't quit smoking, their options are smoking or vaping, and one of these is demonstrably better for you.
Yep.
That's the issue. And again, my bigger issue is,
well, and like you said, they're trying to say it's the same as smoking. It's not. One is literally burning something. One is heating one up to a fume. Like, they are not the same thing.
Yeah, also, it's the difference between, like, propylene this is only propylene glycol and nicotine. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a little flavor shit here. And yes, at the end of the day, that's not ideal because you should just be breathing air with your lungs. I understand that. I accept it. I understand it isn't a 0% risk. That is, that's fine. But that compared to the, how many chemicals are in cigarettes? Like 400, 300, 4,000? It's something insane. Plus tar. Plus cyanide.
Yep.
And you mean to tell me,
plus all the chemicals they use to grow the
same.
tobacco. Monsanto.
So it just, I don't know, that's just annoying. I'm not going to dwell on it too long because I want to go to a crazy mayor who has crazy mayor takes. This is fucking, sorry to swear, but this is just insane. This is Mayor Jeremy Levy, followed by Rebel News, which is, I think, a op of some kind because they don't. This is a tweet he has about Israel. Israel must strike first and strike hard, eradicating every security threat with relentless force. The mission must be relentless and unyielding until every adversary, including the civilian supporters, fully grasp the magnitude of their defeat. This is a battle for survival, and Israel must demonstrate unparalleled strength and resolve. First off, what the hell did I just read?
Yeah. This is the mayor of Montreal, is it?
Mayor, town of Hampstead.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's like, there's absolutely no excuse for this.
No. People like this are the reason Canada will get hit by missiles this world war, this time around. We're not going to escape it because loudmouth assholes like this guy that want to try and spread nothing but murder across the globe for their own self-interest are going to get people killed. Blood is on the hands of people like this.
Absolutely. Reactionary sons of bitches.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I'm sorry, but this, like, so the Fix Collective, which is a friend of the network and show, made a good point. This is literally incitement to genocide under Canadian laws in support of the Rome Statute. Filing Monday. Godspeed.
Nicely done.
Because yeah, this is unhinged. I don't want to see. Listen, you'd think these idiots would learn. You think after we clapped for an SS veteran, they'd learn and be like, you know what? Maybe we should tone down like the just like absolute fascism.
No.
Maybe we should just tone down the fascism a little bit. Maybe we should try to tone down the fascism. It's like, no, we're gonna ride this fascism horse to its natural conclusion. You guys a bit bigger of a view there in this insanity. I digress. We do have follow-up. It's from Few Troubles. Just a response to this, a little kind of breaking down the Rome Statute and the post below, breaking Article 25B and E. So, orders, solicits, or induces the commission of such a crime which in fact occurs or is attempted. E. In respect of the crime of genocide, directly and publicly incites others to commit genocide. This is, without a doubt, exactly that violation. Do not even think for a second it is not. We have elected officials who are openly inciting genocide. He's not the only one. There's plenty more.
Well, he really screwed up by saying civilians too. He done messed up there.
Including the civilian supporters. Like, this is bad enough. The second you get to this point, your stomach turns a little. Because you're like, wait,
that's
hold up.
Just straight genocide.
Okay, so you're just leaning right into it. You're just like, yeah, we need to put, and we got homies in the chat.
Yeah, we'll have to message Fix and ask how we can help with that kind of stuff. Because I'd like to try.
Yeah, I intend to
with what I can.
Because this is just disgusting. I can't.
Well, yeah, and I've seen this guy make so many comments, and I don't know if I think I've replied a few times. I've never said anything really like over the top to him because the things he says are so disgusting. I know I'll lose my mind if I start even writing something.
Oh my God, look at this. The genocide continues. The horror continues. No more weapons, no more impunity. Canada must impose sanctions and a two-way arms embargo now. Yes, that is unequivocally what
we should be doing.
This is a comrade of mine. And yet your party continues to support the liberal government who are allowing arms shipments and giving political cover to the Zionist entity. That makes you complicit in genocide. Heather. Which, based. He said, you've been parroting the same tired lines for ages, Heather. And yet here we are. No results, no impact, just empty noise. It seems like no one's paying attention to your monologue. Maybe it's time to update your script, don't you think? You know what?
That is
have to
on. People like
sorry,
this,
we're gonna do a little real.
People like this are the people that are going to be at the Nuremberg 2.0 trials.
Yes,
it's things like this. People that say these kind of things need to be held accountable for it.
Yeah, because like it's kind of
there's freedom of speech, but there's also like you're trying to get people killed by doing this.
It's kind of a contradiction too when you think about it, because we just covered a bunch of these people calling for like clamping down on social media because of how harmful it is, and yet we've got politicians who are just like, we just gotta kill all the brown people, and there's zero like. There's zero like self-reflection of like, wait, hold on. The narrative we're running over here is going to crash into the narrative we're running over here. That's not good, because we can't be calling for clamping down on social media if we're the ones directly contributing to the harm of social media. That's not going to work.
Oh no, this will be fine though. As long as you're the approved person to say it, it's fine.
Yeah. Anyway, y'all, that's the dumpster fire of the week when it comes to Canada. And as you can see, we're down bad. But I digress. We're now going to get into our main segment. Mostly some education, but also giving our personal talks, since this is a new show. Giving some personal talks and our own takes on the different political factions in Canada. How we feel about them. How we differ. How we're the same. And what they stand for. So, I'm going to start off with a good, really cool article from the Canada Guide here. Here. Our little faces at the bottom there. So we already covered how Canadian political parties work. So we're going to start by explaining the Canadian party system today. So Canada has what is called the two-party plus system. This means the country is usually dominated by two large parties, one of the left, broadly favoring social reform and activist government. Sorry, I couldn't get through that with a straight face. And one of the right, broadly favoring social tradition and limited government, and also genocide and fascism. Sorry, I read between the lines. There is almost always a strong third party place as well, either of the further left or further right, that threatens to bump off one of the big two, which curiously never does. Curiously, instead of threatening to bump off one of the big two, seems to align itself with one of the big two. Jugmeat, I'm looking at you. So first we have the Liberal Party of Canada. This is the current party in power. Liberal Party of Canada is the party that currently rules Canada under Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, the man who broke the world record for most times in blackface, while somehow calling other people racist.
Every time.
It is the country's oldest political party and the most historically successful. When Liberals are feeling particularly boastful, oh damn! I didn't know this site had smoke. They like to call themselves Canada's natural governing party in recognition of the fact that they've held power for such long periods of Canadian history.
And yet do nothing.
Yeah. Born as a movement of reform-minded middle-class French Canadians and Catholics in the mid-19th century, by the early 20th century, the Liberals had evolved into a more generic centrist party favoring traditional British liberal values of free markets and personal responsibility, as well as tolerant relations between French and English Canadians. So Sir Wilfrid Laurier, 1841 to 1919, who championed all of the above to become the most successful and long-reigning of Canada's early Liberal prime ministers, remains an iconic figure of common sense, moderate Canadian liberalism of this period. After World War II, 1939 to 1945, liberals moved in a more notably left-wing direction, particularly during the long reign of Liberal Prime Minister Pierre Elliott Trudeau. Suspicious of the free market and worried about social division, whenever you see free market, just read capitalism, because idiots think they're interchangeable. Trudeau believed a larger, more activist Canadian government could help alleviate the country's social and economic ills and create what he dubbed a just society of compassion and equality. A worsening financial situation in the 1990s caused the next two Liberal prime ministers, Jean Chrétien and Paul Martin, to move more to the right on fiscal matters, which, spoiler alert, does not actually fix a worsening financial situation. Adopting generally conservative ideas about the importance of keeping taxes low and budgets balanced. Liberal Party today, this is just like weird, the way this reads. Now led by Pierre Trudeau's son, Justin Trudeau. Is that just normal, I guess?
Nope, not at all.
Like, oh, the son is in charge. Yeah, no dynasties at all.
Yeah, but in the DPRK, it's the end of the world because the same guy led twice.
I've said it a million times before. The West's rules only apply to the West. They don't apply to any other country. At that point, it's like bad.
It's good for me. What's good for me is bad for you kind of idea. Wait, that is not what I meant to say, but you get the idea.
Yeah. They've had hit piece articles on China where they just point out an identical policy that China's done to like a Western policy, but then they just put at what cost at the end and they call it a day. They're like, yeah, no, it's bad when they do it because it's not like, yeah, it's
high-speed rail, but at what cost?
Well, actually, at no cost, last I checked. But okay. So, the modern Liberal Party portrays itself as a party that is fiscally responsible but socially progressive. So, I'm going to translate that a little bit. What is fiscally responsible but socially progressive mean? Well, it is your standard liberal take. Basically, economically, they are on the right, but socially, they're on the left. So, lean into the culture stuff, right? To give them that veneer of virtue. But when it comes to actual, help and support for working class people, well, they're just a little too right. They can't do anything.
It's kind of like they'll give someone else's home to someone to stay in, but they'd never let someone stay in their own home.
Yeah, pretty much. And just to I can summarize it with ODSP. ODSP currently gives someone about $1,000 and change, maybe a bit more now, $1,000 a month to live on. Mm-hmm. They give you like 600 of it, I believe, for rent, and the other 400 for everything else. So they're doing something. They're not giving you nothing. They're not saying if you're disabled, you are going to just die. But it's so bad that people, and we're going to get into this on another episode. I'm just going to make a note of that because I came up with it. I think we should cover MAID. We should cover MAID like big time.
Yeah, actually, that has some reminiscence of some times in Nazi Germany. They used some very similar sales techniques.
But just to bring up MAID for a second, the reason I'm pointing that out is because I saw this story of someone who they couldn't survive because of disability. So they felt their only option was to die. So yes, they will give you disability, but it will never be enough. And that is kind of the TLDR of the Liberal Party of today. They will do the absolute bare minimum, which at the end of the day is not enough anyway. So it doesn't really matter. And the thing is, the clusterfuck with ODSP specifically, is that it doesn't give you enough to live on. But then if you try and get income any other way, it claws back the ODSP. So
yep.
At
That's
the end
like
of the day,
in Alberta.
yeah. So at the end of the day, like, you really don't have any options. You either sit on that 1,000 and make like a tiny bit more, and then it's clawed back anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Mhm.
Or, I don't know, you force yourself while disabled to somehow go back into the workforce, another product of neoliberal capitalism. Because these systems, these social systems, are designed to force you back into producing for the capitalist class.
Yep.
Now let's get to the Conservative Party of Canada. The Conservative Party of Canada, the CPC, is Canada's second largest second largest party in Parliament. That slips, I don't know why. And the party that currently forms the official opposition to Justin Trudeau's ruling Liberals. It is also technically Canada's newest party, having been founded in 2003 by merging the Progressive Conservative Party with the Canadian Reform Conservative Alliance Party. This represented an effort to rebuild a single unified Conservative Party of the sort that had existed for most of Canadian history. A reminder that if you think these parties are different, Pierre Poilievre has voted in lockstep with Justin Trudeau over 600 times.
Jeez.
Look it up.
Go
look it up. These are the two opposing parties. Just saying.
And if you tell people that, if you tell that to like older people, they're like, "Oh, that's just democracy working."
Yeah, you get this party or you get this party. Largely, nothing's going to change, but there might be a couple small details that you'll throw up your hands over.
Do you want a red cover or a blue cover to the book this year? Oh, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically like changing the book color cover.
We got some history here on the Conservative Party, Reform Party. The Conservative Party today, if forced to define themselves, today's Conservatives would describe their party as one that favors low taxes, low regulation of business, smaller, less bossy government, a strong regime of law and order, a strong military. Did they actually say that? Oh no.
We have the strongest military at West End.
And respect for traditional values, particularly in contrast to so-called woke priorities that are seen to be overly preoccupied with race, gender, and sexuality-based activism. It's not a bug. That's what I keep arguing. It's a feature.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why these parties, much like America, focus so much on culture issues is because they don't got shit for you economically. There's nothing on the table there. Nothing on the table that actually threatens the pocketbooks of the rich and powerful.
Yep, it's just simply stuff to distract us from more important things that we should be focusing on.
Like everybody being poor, for example, but apparently that's not a big issue.
That's just because they didn't pull up their work boots.
Yeah. In 2017, following the electoral defeat of Prime Minister Harper, which is a depressing moment for myself because I held my nose and voted for Trudeau because my ass got taken for a ride. And I thought he was actually going to bring about electoral reform. Spoiler alert.
I mean, I didn't think he was going to be nearly what he's turned out to be.
I thought he'd just be boring. But
I mean, I would have loved that now.
Yeah. Back then, I hadn't rabbit holed into like the World Economic Forum. Tune in next episode. And you know, I hadn't rabbit holed into how deep the corruption goes with our governments. But the Conservatives, after that defeat, elected former Speaker of the House of Commons, Andrew Scheer, man, that guy was such a shit show, as their new leader. After failing to unseat the Liberals in the 2019 federal election, Scheer resigned in 2020 and was replaced by former Cabinet Minister Aaron O'Toole, who in turn failed to unseat the Liberals in the 2021 election and was removed by the party in early 2022. Scheer and especially O'Toole were considered fairly ideologically moderate, and partially in response to this, in September of 2022, the party elected former cabinet minister and actual dad of Calvin from Calvin and Hobbes, Pierre Poilievre, as their fourth ever leader, who's usually described as more populist. Yeah. Pierre, who is known for attracting large audiences to his rallies, where he rails against the power of gatekeepers. Jesus Christ. I'm sorry, Canada is leaning so hard into American politics. He's just trying to LARP as Maple Trump. I might call him that from now on. Just call him Maple Trump.
That works. And it is. All they're doing is trying to recreate what happened in the States about 7 years ago.
Yeah. So he rails against the power of gatekeepers in elite institutions like bureaucracy, mainstream media. Will accordingly mark a much sharper contrast in both style and substance when he runs against Prime Minister Trudeau. Next general election is currently scheduled for fall of 2025. So next year, we got all of the rest of this year, and we got a full other year, which I expect to be an absolute headache. Next, we got my man right there. God bless.
Jackie.
Glad he's not around to see what happened to his party.
I'm glad he's dead. What?
I mean, I'd be so mad. Oh my God, I would be mad. Okay.
Oh, he's probably losing it up there. I'm going to come back down there.
I just noticed he kind of looks a little bit like Lenin. Never noticed that.
A little bit, yeah. I can see that.
He's got Lenin energy. Lenergy, if you will. But so let's get into the NDP. Just to kind of TLDR a little bit. Imagine, for Americans watching, imagine if the Squad had a party, their own political party, like AOC, Bernie, all those people. They kind of broke off into their own party. It's kind of, in a nutshell, what the NDP kind of presents up here, in my opinion. Founded during the midst of the Great Depression, as you would do, 1929 to 1939, Canada's new Democratic Party, first known as Cooperative Commonwealth Federation, that's just a base name. It was originally a doctrinaire socialist party. Oh no, not the evil word. Ah! Dedicated to the democratic overthrow of the capitalist. Oh man, what happened, guys? You had it.
You knew what was going on.
Shit the bed. And implementation of government-planned economy in its place. In the decades since, the NDP has moved in a more moderate direction, and today champions the useless goal of a social democratic society with a mixed economy in which the government tightly regulates the economy but doesn't run it, except it doesn't tightly regulate the economy.
Yeah, like it doesn't regulate anything.
And furthermore, if you just keep capitalism going, whatever regulations you do, the capitalist system will have an answer for it. You don't believe me? Go look at layoffs every single time they increase the minimum wage. Million other examples. Just saying.
Yeah.
There's no compromise under capitalism. They're going to get the bag one way or another. Today, the NDP is considered quite similar to the Liberal Party. Oh, no. Oh. Canada Guide just murdered. I'd like to report a murder.
Yeah.
They just did a murder here. I'm sorry. As a man of the far left, to the point where I'm probably on a watch list of some kind, this is a murder. It takes a more aggressively progressive position on taxing the wealthy and large corporations, environmental regulation, and non-interventionist foreign policy. Non-interventionist foreign policy.
Good. That is a
We
great
could do
plan. Leave every country to let themselves run by themselves.
Yep.
Such a novel concept.
Canada has never had an NDP prime minister, and for most of its history, the NDP has consistently come in a distant third or fourth place in the parliamentary seat count. Only once. In 2011, did it come in second, briefly surpassing the Liberals. Better times. Much better times.
Mm-hmm.
And I will go on record in saying that was my proudest vote to this day. That's the only vote I've ever been proud of voting. Voted for Jack Layton, and I'd do it again. I'd vote for his body, for his skeleton. What kind of condition do you think Jack Layton's corpse is? Okay, let's move on. I'm ADHDing in a way too dark direction.
Probably pretty gone at this point.
We need to find a necromancer.
It's more of a Jack skeleton now.
Jack skeleton. Important Canadian social programs such as old age pensions and national Medicare are usually at least partially credited to NDP deal-making in closely divided parliaments of the past. Following the 2011 you're going to make me relive this. Following the 2011 death of the popular Jack Layton, the NDP elected Quebec politician Thomas Mulcair as leader, reflecting the growing power of that province in the party. After a disappointing showing in the 2015 general election, in 2016, the NDP voted to remove Mulcair, and in 2017, Jagmeet Singh was elected in his place. Former lawyer and the son of Sikh immigrants from India, Singh is the first non-white, non-Christian person to lead a Canadian political party. Oh my God, so brave.
He's
known for
useless.
He's brain dead.
Like has Jagmeet done anything of note?
He's the same thing as Bernie. He just writes strongly worded letters. He's just like
I know
the Liberal government should do more, and then nothing happens.
Like I know India condemned him for supporting terrorists.
I mean, I actually got to get caught up in his stances, but they're probably largely the same as our Liberal government. A lot of lip service, no follow through, still supporting the bad guys.
Yeah, every time.
But yeah, I'm gonna move swiftly along real quick. Did you want to read that bit on the Bloc Québécois real quick? I have to pee really bad.
Perfect. All right.
Okay.
As we discussed more in detail in the Quebec chapter, one of the biggest issues in contemporary Canadian politics is whether or not the French-speaking province of Quebec should separate from Canada and form its own country. In Canadian political lingo, people who support this idea are known as separatists, and the Bloc Québécois is Canada's leading separatist political party. Founded in 1990 by Lucien Bouchard, born 1938, a former progressive conservative cabinet minister, the Bloc was Canada's first national political party to openly support Quebec separatism and remained the most popular political party in the province until quite recently. The Bloc only runs candidates in Quebec, and for this reason, it is impossible for it ever to form the government of Canada. But that's not the point. By voting Bloc, Quebecers are expressing their disdain for the Canadian system and essentially opting out of federal politics altogether. As Bloc MPs would put it, they're going to Ottawa to defend the interests of Quebec and nothing else. Ideologically, wow, I can't talk. The Bloc is quite left-wing, perhaps, unsurprisingly considering Quebec is said to be the most left-wing region in all of North America. Though they won't ever be in a position to impose an agenda of their own, the Bloc MPs do sit in Parliament and vote just like everyone else, and controversially, wow, I cannot read it all, controversially collect their paycheck and pensions. The party had very poor showing in the 2011 and 2015 elections, suffered from chronic leadership instability following the departure of longtime party leader Gilles Duceppe, born 1947, in 2015. The party staged a big comeback in 2019 general election under the leadership Yves Francois Blanchet, born 1965. However, Blanchet is a former minister in the separatist administration that the government Quebec from 2012 to 2014. Under his leadership, the Bloc has recovered its former losses and once again sits as the Parliament's third biggest party.
Thanks, man. Appreciate that.
No
problem. How would you?
There we go.
How would you explain Quebec, just like to non-Canadians? Because I know a lot of people who aren't Canadian who are just confused. They're like, "What's happening there? What is going on?"
It's a bit like Hawaii, I think, in the States, or even Puerto Rico to a certain degree.
A little bit, yeah.
It's not really the same. It's basically like if you had a family member that's like, I don't want to be here, and they keep trying to leave, and they never quite get out the door.
Yeah.
And I don't say it negatively. Like, I understand why Quebec wants to leave. They are ran very differently. Their cost of living in Quebec is considerably better than like in the rest of Alberta, especially. Like I have friends there that like I think they're managing a Tim Hortons, which is not a normally lucrative career, but they own their own home. They go on vacation. They're not struggling by any means. Like they can work a relatively normal job and own a home. That's not a bad thing.
Also, listen, Quebec has a world-renowned party city, to which if you want to party, this is literally where you go, and it's not even close. In Montreal. They gave us poutine. Yeah, and they gave us poutine and beaver tails.
Yeah,
that'd be a good episode to do too. The weird cuisine here. And listen, guys, we take poutine to 11.
That's true. You get some buffalo chicken poutine. Air poutine is great. Also,
yeah, we want to
give us Jean Chrétien, which is probably the greatest prime minister in Canadian history ever. Guy breaks into the parliamentary house. I'll take care of this one.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he didn't need security. He was security.
Yeah, really. Yeah, so like basically Quebec has their own kind of party. And it's Quebec's interesting in general because it's the reason French is our second language, which I get is kind of confusing too. Especially because like it's essentially the only province that predominantly speaks French. That was kind of a combination we made. Now, for the record, I don't speak French. I tried and I failed. I do speak multiple languages, but I couldn't pick up the French thing. In fact, to be honest, I find
is better than my French. I'll say that.
Well, one of those languages might be a little more important than the other in the future.
Yeah, I'm working on it now.
I think everybody should. And as I admitted before, I'm like, my dad told me to learn that language, no joke, like 20 years ago, and I'm kicking myself.
It's kind of funny. It's funny how like sometimes our old folks were like, "Ah, you nut jobs," and now we think about it like, "Damn, they were onto something."
He was literally like, he's like, you should learn Mandarin Chinese. China is going to dominate America, and I'm like, that's crazy. Said that 20 years ago. That's crazy, and I'm like,
well, and they've done it without firing weapons too. They haven't taken over anywheres. They haven't destroyed other countries and stolen.
They just invested in their own country, and look what happens. Things work.
What? Free education? Oh, no. Oh, wait. They're all incredibly well educated. That even, like, people in the poorest areas of China are getting educations where they're getting accepted to, like, the best universities, to, like, the best programs. Like these people are coming from like mud huts and then developing like life-saving DNA technology, this kind of stuff. It's quite amazing to see that kind of stuff.
This is what happens when you don't have a whole entire society that is based on war, which is what America and its allies, even up here in Canada, has basically been doing. Our bread and butter is imperialism, always has been.
Yep.
And as Dane Cook said, imperialism is the highest form of capitalism.
It's the smartest thing that guy ever said. So God's going to give him some credit for that one.
I know French enough. I know enough French to confuse the shit out of telemarketers. Okay. So we're going to move on to, it gets a little confusing now because we also have a Green Party. So if you're asking, oh, Green Party. So is it like based like Jill Stein, like that kind of Green Party? No. And if that lady looks familiar, she is in the intro arguing about farts.
She doesn't like the word fart.
She very much does not like the word fart. Now, I've always found this party confusing, given that the NDP exists. I always found that, I don't know about you, I always found it confusing that, like, this... Because, like, realistically, if you look at their platform and you look at the NDP's platform, they're not extremely different here. Realistically, it could just kind of join forces. But again, the Green Party is a relatively new player on the Canadian political scene, though it's been around for more than 30 years. It did not begin winning a significant...
I was just saying, sorry, my ADHD brain went in there. I wonder if they were brought around to kind of take down votes from the NDP.
I kind of always figure that as well. It's like break, like, because you never see this on the right, except for one. We'll get into that at the end. The weird party, I call them. I don't think anybody knows what to do with them, really, but we'll get into that. You never see this kind of factioning on the right. Especially in the States, it's just the Republicans and that's it. You got libertarians, but most of them just vote Republican. It's like, but when you get into the left, there's all these splits where it's like NDP, the Greens. It never made sense to me that these are two different factions. Yeah. They have been around for more than 30 years, but they didn't start winning significant numbers of votes until the early 2000s. And they didn't really elect their first member of parliament till 2011. Initially, the Greens were simply a one-issue party exclusively devoted to raising awareness of the environment until former leaders Jim Harris and especially Elizabeth May, Fart Lady, sought to broaden the Greens' appeal and market themselves as more center-left populists. So, we got a lot of center-left stuff here, guys. Today, Green candidates tend to try to stand out by presenting themselves as respectable political outsiders who are less corrupt and cynical than politicians from other parties. It is common for Greens to advocate for sweeping reforms to the Canadian political system, including changing the electoral system, which they say is currently biased against small parties like theirs. It also is undemocratic. And I need to drive this home a little bit. First past the post voting is not democratic. If you are voting for a party for the sole purpose of not letting the other big party win, that ain't democratic. Because you feel like you have to vote that way. Otherwise, you are taking votes away from the lesser evil. This lesser evil voting shit is not democratic. It never has been. No. To my Americans watching, you understand my frustration, I'm sure. Whether you're like someone who doesn't particularly like Trump but have to vote for him, or doesn't particularly like Cackle Cop over there, but you feel like you got to vote for her. Her and her zero policies. You get it. It's the same up here. I digress. Let's see. The Greens' outsider status helps the party attract the support of many Canadians who have outside the mainstream opinions on things like medicine, disease, and the role of larger corporations in Canadian society. I think what they mean by medicine and disease is, I think this was the only party outside of the Conservatives that actually had an okay stance on stuff like mandates.
Okay.
I'll have to fact check me on that, though. That just I think I saw something, so I'm not stating that with certainty. That said, the environment still remains a major Green preoccupation, particularly climate change, and the party is known for advocating the most dramatic opposition to things like fossil fuels and mining. The Canadian news media has treated the Greens as a major party since the 2000s, a period in which the Greens began consistently winning about 3 to 6% of the popular vote, but very few seats. In 2019, they elected 3 members of parliament, a new record, though, in 2021, that number shrunk to just 2, probably because the NDP exists. Green parties have proven more successful at the provincial level, however, and throughout the 2010s. A handful of Greens were elected to legislatures of several provinces, fact which has helped establish the party as the constant 3rd or 4th place party in many provinces, even as they languish in 5th place nationally. The Green Party has led by. I hate it when they do this. It screws up my weird neurodivergent brain. Has been led by Elizabeth May for most of the last 15 years, first from 2006 to 2019, and now 2022. All right. Now we're getting into weird territory.
This one doesn't even count as a party.
This whole thing, I still have no idea. I don't even know what to do with the People's Party. Yeah. It's like if Alex Jones made a Canadian political party. I don't know how else to describe it.
Did you want me to read this one?
You can if you like.
Yeah, sure. Give you a break. In 2018, former Conservative cabinet minister and member of Parliament Maxime Bernier loudly quit the Conservative Party and announced he was forming a new party, the People's Party of Canada, the PPC. Bernier had long been one of the most outspoken and eccentric members of the Conservative Party, known for his libertarian opinions, often to the right of his party's mainstream. He claimed his decision to quit the party was motivated by his opposition to what he considered excessive moderation under former leader Andrew Scheer. To date, his new People's Party has mostly defined itself as being more conservative than the Conservative Party, particularly on issues relating to immigration and multiculturalism. The PPC performed poorly in the 2019 general election, its first winning only 1% of the vote. In the 2021 election, it fared significantly better, winning 5% of the vote but 0 seats, a benchmark often thought of as representing the standard for what constitutes a major party in Canada. The party's improved showing has been widely attributed to the strong position Bernier took in the position to various public safety measures that were imposed during the COVID-19 pandemic, including masking, vaccine passport, mandatory vaccines, and sometimes even vaccines in general. It remains unclear if the PPC is evolving into a permanent player in the Canadian politics, or its success in 2021 was simply the result of populist backlash to a very particular situation.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
this guy's a bit of a lunatic.
He's okay. Sorry, I was looking for a tweet to kind of summarize where this guy's at.
Oh, you weren't even listening to my beautiful voice. How
I was.
dare you?
Part of the beauty of ADHD is you have multitasking ability that erodes the fabric of time. So this is where this guy's at. Climate change hysteria is just a fabricated pretext to destroy our economy and impose communism.
Everything we don't like is communism. A book to capitalism.
I don't even know what to do with that sentence. But again, if you're in America, this might sound familiar, right? The liberals are doing a communism. They're not doing a useless center-left compromise with capitalism. They're doing a communism. The PPC is the only party that commits to withdraw from the Paris Accord. So he doesn't believe...
Do you know the story about the Greenpeace guy that he's showing a video of?
I don't. What is the story about this guy?
So he was one of the original co-founders of Greenpeace, but he actually left them because he said they
Oxide
started
is a
going,
pollutant and somehow dangerous
against science, and we're clearly getting infiltrated. So he was like, I'm out. He basically just left. But he was one of the founding members, if I remember correctly.
Interesting.
Yeah. Because he's like, there is some factual stuff to climate change and that kind of stuff. Probably not burning so much fossil fuels is probably not the worst idea. But he said it kind of got away from actual truth telling, and it was mostly, I think, just kind of hysteria and just over the top kind of crap that wasn't helping.
Well, my position is pretty solid. I don't think we can predict the future. I definitely think that we are destroying the environment. But I will say this. regardless of your personal opinions on climate change, you should at this point understand that our government, any Western government, will never have the capacity or the ability to correctly deal with climate change. Because, people, someone in the chat, who can tell me what is the largest producer of emissions, the largest polluter in the world? What complex, if you will? You can tell me.
If you were to name some type of complex.
Yeah, I completely shit the bed there because I gave the whole game away. The military-industrial complex, people. And you'll never hear any of these people talk about that.
No.
That's why a lot of people are jumping shit.
Plastic straws.
Yeah.
That's the thing. If the world was like a good, peaceful place, and they're like, okay, we found out plastic straws are ending up in turtles. We're gonna have to like change over to like some paper straws till we figure out something else. People would be like, you know what, that seems reasonable. But when you can see like nuclear bombs being dropped, and it's like plastic straws, that's the problem. No,
that's the biggest problem we have. The biggest problem is that they're trying to put the burden on the proletariat, on the working class, where it's completely misplaced. Our carbon footprints they're not even in the same galaxy as the carbon footprints corporations, that big business, that big military, that according to Snork Y2K, big church. I didn't know about that. I'd love to look into that more. Let me put that up. We're not even comparable. Nothing we do will ever matter, even in mass. We'll even come close to the footprint that these people are doing, and nobody's talking about that. They're just talking about like, yeah, you need to go eat crickets and live in a 10-minute city, or 15-minute city rather, because we got to save the environment, and they're not looking at the elephant in the room, which is like, well, we've got a massive industrial machine the world over that is creating, just wreaking havoc on the environment, but nobody has the twig and berries. Nobody has cash and prizes to stand up to that. So of course we got to blame.
And they're not teaching anyone like ways to mitigate their carbon footprint. All they're saying is we got to raise taxes and make 15-minute cities. They don't talk about self-sustainability. They're not sending people out seeds and teaching people how to grow stuff. None of that. They're just simply being like, we got to raise taxes. Like, that's not a solution.
Also, again, I'd be fine with that if the taxes went to anything, but I'm not seeing it.
Exactly.
I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it anywhere. I'm not seeing the material conditions of ordinary, normal, working class people improve. They've just gotten worse. Everybody I know is in debt. People are at the point where they don't know what to do with all the debt. Some people are so buried in debt that they literally don't think they can ever climb out of it outside of winning lottery. And a little bit of an anecdote.
I've done bankruptcy. I was in bad debt.
My wife did as well. But again, also on top of that, the most depressing thing, it's a little thing, but I got a convenience store over here that I walk to buy to mostly buy snacks or soda pop. When I need to stress.
You're buying those smut magazines, aren't you?
Actually, the biggest thing I buy is I'm a bit of a jerky addict. I wish it didn't cost $1 million, but I'm a huge I'm such a whore for jerky.
Jerky is delicious.
But I see every single day. I see multiple people every single day going in there and buying a lottery ticket. And lottery the lottery, that would be a great episode as well, covering the lottery industry, but that's a lottery that just feasts off the desperation of workers. Because I see so many of those people go in there and the look of despair on their face as they just hope, maybe this is the ticket I scratch. It's going to get me out of debt. It's going to make me able to finally pay my bills off.
Yeah. And it's just
I see that every day.
that people don't need. And like you said, you can see it. It's crushing people.
Mm-hmm.
Like figuratively
Everyone I know.
and
And it's multiple it's multiple prongs too. That's the thing. Because like you have the cloud of debt hanging over you, which is just a constant source of like despair. So it's affecting your mental health. But on top of that, it costs money to be in debt as well. So
and then you add in that they're robo phone calling you every day about that debt.
Oh, dude, I hate the robocalls so much. Most of my robocalls don't even make sense.
Yeah.
Half the calls I get.
Evening, Nilo.
Hey, buddy. Half the calls I get are in Chinese, and I just say, "Can you please save us?" And they hang up after that. So, but no, it's absolutely depressing. Yeah, again, summarizing the political parties, you essentially have, let me know your thoughts, but you essentially have like standard liberal party that does the bare minimum just to not seem like they're too far to the right, but it's never enough. We live under a liberal government right now and everybody's struggling. I could bring up the statistics, but most Canadians are in debt.
Well, our taxes and interest are so high because we have to keep paying for the billionaires overspending. Like essentially, like I know we don't have actual like bailouts a whole lot, but a lot of money is continually going to those corporations to help them stay afloat. I just don't think people realize it happens.
Yeah. And the thing is, a lot of people delude themselves into thinking like, oh, we don't have real capitalism because we do these bailouts. And my argument is like, do you want to see what it would be like if we didn't? That'd be worse. That would be the quid. I almost wish it would happen just so you people could lose your pro-capitalist talking points. Because what would happen would the system would collapse and we would have to figure something else out. That's why they do that. And I'll always argue back to that one day, just one day of Rogers not working, our whole country fell to a standstill.
See, my thing is, if we bail out a company, that company should become citizen property. If you can't run your company, $1 billion company, bye. You're broke on the street. You can just pull up your bootstraps and work hard. Don't worry.
Nationalize it.
Be a billionaire.
Nationalize it right there.
Yeah, just nationalize. All right. And not the government should run it. It should be ran by the people.
Well, my hope for Canada is eventually the government is run by the people. That is what's supposed. That's the crazy part. That's what's supposed to happen.
Exactly. Yes. In that case, then yes. Just in the present.
We're in this.
No.
We're in this quandary where nobody feels represented anymore. We're just stuck with these parties. Same thing with every other Western country. Yeah. Guys, I just need to remind you, the government's supposed to be run by the people. They're supposed to be our representatives. Because back in the day, we had to do that. We had to elect representatives because they had to physically go to a place and figure stuff out with a bunch of other people that were represented to go to a place and figure stuff out.
And then if they came back and didn't figure it out, you hit them with stuff. Like eggs, tar, and feathers.
Exactly.
They won't do it again.
That's what should have happened. But instead of that, we're in this weird boat where we're just constantly, like the States, voting for the lesser of two evils, and these parties just do whatever the hell they want. If you don't believe me, ask yourself, where was the vote? Where was the vote to involve ourselves with any support of a foreign country at all? Whether it's Ukraine, Israel, where's your vote to get militarily involved with these geopolitical conflicts?
Why do we keep sending peacekeepers with guns to these foreign countries that aren't our business? Why are we funding terrorists?
I'll go further. Where was your vote to lock the country down? I don't remember having a weigh-in on that. I just remember being told that's what I should do, and I should be a good little doggy. And I was a good little doggy because, I cared, and they weaponized my empathy against me, which that's a flaw of mine, but I digress. I don't think it's a bad flaw to have, regardless.
And we have I think you're correct there. And I was just going to say, we have the technology to have direct democracy.
Yeah.
If you can log into a bank account, sure, we can log into some voting systems. Make some stuff secure.
It could be so simple too. They could just, and they'll argue like, oh, it could be hacked. It could have Russian interference. China. They'll do that. I get it. But there's ways around that. Because if there weren't ways around that, you could use that as a defense for anything online at all. So like if you log into your CRA account, CRA is the IRS for Canada. You could just argue like, oh, well, Russian interference with my CRA account. You could argue that across the board, but it never holds any water. There's ways to do this. And like, it could just be as simple as like, if a government's proposing a policy, proposing something, just hold it up. Or have an open forum where everybody can weigh in on the decision. We could have a more dynamic government as opposed to these parties that just sit there and are like, I think that's what the people want.
Right. You could have a little pop-up on your phone. Do politicians deserve a raise? Yes, no, and then guillotine. You just choose one of the options.
And then you could have a pop-up too that goes, should it be yes, no, or guillotine, or just guillotine, extra guillotine with lubrication? Just so like, goes in.
You get enough politicians lose their head, they're going to start working for us again.
Yeah, I mean, listen, people can talk shit about France, but, they knew what was up back in the day.
Well,
I mean, they're still pretty
like
based
when their views.
Yeah, like
similar styles.
Let's not forget, like, France tried to raise the pension age, and the country turned into like Doom Eternal. There's just the whole country mobilized against them. So like, let's take some pages out of their books, because we're sitting here just like pleading for liberals to give us cookies, and it's like, ugh.
See, if you had the app, every Canadian would have chose guillotine after that.
Oh yeah. Well, I
would never have to worry about that idea coming up again.
I would have chosen guillotine after Trudeau was like, "Oh, we don't need electoral reform because we're in power," which was like a 15-year-old. That was like a 12-year-old like take. After that, I would have chosen guillotine because I'm like, that's why I voted for you, because I want Canada to be an actual democracy.
I'd like to clarify, I am not advocating violence. I am advocating for democratic guillotines. That is it.
Yes, it should be a democratic decision we all make. I am also not advocating for violence. I'm advocating for the people's choppy chop. Okay? People's
chopping his chopper face.
Exactly. Yeah, basically what we got is to summarize. we've got, like other Western countries, we've got the big parties, which are conservative and conservative with politeness, also known as conservative and liberal. The differences are we have a third party that has a bit more oomph, a bit more riz than say like the Green Party in the States. You know, they get a little bit of a chunk in the elections. However, the problem is they're in essentially a coalition with the liberals, and they are pretty much in lockstep with every initiative that matters.
Mm-hmm.
They loudly disagree when the liberals are not. It's the same thing Bernie and AOC do. They align themselves with this faction, but then they complain about the faction. So I feel like largely, this is just my opinion, I feel like the NDP just exists to keep people out of the streets. They just exist to create the illusion that some party in Canada is fighting for you. They're fighting for your material condition.
We're doing something.
Except
as
they're never
just
doing
treading water.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, let's do a Zoom marathon of just someone in their seat moving their arms. We're in this together, guys.
Pretty much. And the fact that they're aligned, they're in this weird coalition with the liberals to begin with. First off, it hurts them from anyone to the left of liberals. It hurts them in that category. Because they're going to be like, wait, why are you guys like in an allyship with liberals?
Mm-hmm.
And then to anybody to the right of them, it hurts them and the liberals. Because people are looking at liberals and going, why are you allied with these socialists or whatever they've been propagandized to think? And then, the other faction goes, the other group of people goes, this faction is too radical or whatever. So largely, and then you've got the fringe parties, which People's Party is pretty much fringe. Dude's a little insane. He gave some, like, it's your standard libertarian. Like, if you feel like free speech is important, if you feel like government overreach is a problem, both of which I do, but I don't just feel like in a vacuum that's a problem. I feel like under a government that is essentially run by corporations, that's a problem. Because if we actually had a democracy, that wouldn't be a problem because nobody would be okay with it to begin with. And be like, yeah, I definitely think the government should clamp down on our stuff. Nobody would be into that. But we don't have an actual democracy, which is why we're seeing this kind of crap. So, anyway, we're getting to the 2-hour point. I hope this was educational for everybody and learning a little bit more about the dumpster fire that is Canadian politics. And how we're not so different insofar as we have bots that run all our stuff as well. And
I'm pretty sure the bots are the people that are running the government, though. Maybe that's what they were.
That would be
about.
a way.
Maybe they're just trying to warn us.
That would be a way more acceptable explanation than it's run by actual people who understand other human beings. And yeah, we just got mayors up here, directly inciting genocide. So that's fun. It's good stuff. Keep it up, Canada. As we always say here on the Maple Files, Canada just says sorry as they slide the knife in. That's it.
Oh, we're so sorry we had to do this.
Yeah. Any final thoughts, comrade?
No, not today. Actually, I think we actually covered quite a bit and had a good talk and stuff. So was glad I was actually able to read some articles and not make you do all the work. I'll just make you do all the research.
No, I appreciate it. We can. That'll probably be a good mix-up moving forward. Like I'll read a thing, you read a thing. We'll both get better at reading. That's never a bad thing.
No, normally it's weird, man. I'm having more trouble with. I think it's because I haven't read as much lately. I'm having problems with like saying words, and I'm like, it's like I need to talk more.
No, I have that like anyone who's watched me on this show or another show read an article, like I struggle with it too. It's just like it's muscle memory. Like you just got to keep doing it and you'll get better at it. But like we're used to just reading and not like talking while reading, right?
Yeah. But like in my head, I know what theoretically sounds like, but I can't say it out loud all of a sudden.
Yeah, it's not something you do every day. Like I'll give an example. I used to work as a training manager. So I would train like groups of like, trainees for our company.
Yeah.
At that time, I was a brilliant orator. I could read anything I wanted and like during a stream or whatever. And it would be pretty spot on. But the only reason I could do that was because I was doing that as part of my job every day. So it's literally just muscle memory. It's just muscle memory. You just got to get better at it because you're not like, think about it. When do you do that in like a normal setting where you just read things
not
like
too often
and talk at the same time? That's not a normal thing you do. Usually, like if I'm reading, usually for me personally, it's usually reading theory. I'm leaning against a tree and just looking with my eyeballs. I'm not saying it out loud. So it's not a normal thing. Yeah. At the end of the day, like I said, I hope this was super helpful for people tuning in. Tune into the Maple Files every Monday at 8 p.m. Start off your week correct with some beaver tail information, some beaver tail flavored information. I just tried to do like a promo thing and it failed. It's okay. Couple quick announcements. Our next episode, I anticipate, is going to be a big one, and we're going to put a bit of work into fleshing this out. But our next episode is going to be the World Economic Forum and its involvement in our country, because this isn't covered a lot on the left. In fact, there's a lot of weird pushback. But I want to really break down a major influence. And this isn't like a conspiracy influence. For the record, the World Economic Forum is very simple to understand. It is the billionaires club. That's it. Go look at Davos. Go look at the WEF Forum website. And just go look at who they're affiliated with. BlackRock.
All those secret clubs you hear about. It's these folks. Davos. Perfect example. It's a coalition of rich people. The World Economic Forum is a class solidarity that we should have, but we don't. The World Economic Forum is the bourgeois class solidarity. It's their version of a union, I guess, is how I would explain it to be. Yeah. It's socialism for the rich, is what it is.
Pretty much. And that's how capitalism works. There's a different set of rules they play, and there's a different set of rules we play. If we played the same rules across the board, fun fact, that class that owns us would go away. So we're going to be deep diving into that. I'm excited. I can't wait to get into this because I feel like it's a very important aspect of understanding not only Canadian politics, but the way the West is run, period, because their involvement doesn't just cut off at Canadians. This is a tick that is burrowed firmly into the West. But also a couple more quick announcements. We will be getting our own YouTube channel on the Maple Files. Two main reasons. One, INN as a channel is still getting hit. We just had a bunch of features taken away because, well, pretty much we didn't go by the community guidelines. But also, I'd like to have a home for everybody who's like, you know,
Enjoys this.
interested in following the Maple Files to kind of chill out. Might make some social media accounts too, just kind of flesh it out. But
Yep.
so that's going to be a thing. Politically Homeless this Thursday. We are hoping to get a very special guest, so be sure to check that out. And an announcement on my and yeah, but man, you held down the fort. God damn. Those episodes would have sucked without you there. It would have just been me babbling on, and everyone would have been like, shut this dumb Viking up. But
who let this guy have a camera?
Why does he have a camera? And a Yeti microphone. But and a just a quick housekeeping thing. So Snow Himbo streams, I've kind of decided to change that to a more sporadic thing. Because like gaming on a news network is, it's a little. I feel like it's something that should be like a scheduled thing, just because I'm not really doing any news stuff. More importantly, time slot doesn't work for me, and frankly, like, I kind of just want to I want to focus on this show more and Politically Homeless more, and I also kind of I want to game kind of when I feel like gaming, and it feels like when it's scheduled, it's like, well, what if I don't feel like gaming? If that makes any sense. I know people game every day.
You're losing the fun, right? Takes the fun.
It's not funny. It's not fun anymore. So I'll do that time here and time there, but for the most part, yeah. That's going to be kind of the thing that I'm going to be stepping back from, just because this has become in many ways a new passion project that I'm very excited about. Anyway, regardless, thank you guys so much for tuning in tonight. I know it was a lot of material. Feel free to rewatch it if anything was missed. I know we covered a ton. And yeah, look forward to seeing everybody next week. And thanks, everybody. This is Yeti and Snow saying